Welcome to Opposition Territory here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. 12 years strong. We got a great discussion, a great pre-game preview podcast show coming your way as we're going to be diving into this upcoming Philadelphia Eagles and New York Giants game on Thursday night. Oh my gosh, it's going to be an interesting one. Really, it's going to be an interesting one, I think, in a lot of different ways. I'm Jeff Warren. I am here with my buddy from BigBlueView.com. He is a contributor over there. Chris Pflum, how are you doing, my buddy?
I would say, all things considered, I'm doing well enough.
Okay. It was a tough loss this past week for you guys. I mean, really,
it was
a game you guys probably should have won, right?
I've been saying that a lot this year.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, I don't think I've ever seen a team go from dominant to disastrous that quickly.
Yeah. It has been an interesting year in the NFL for not just the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles, but all around. I mean, you saw what happened last night, Sunday Night Football, with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. I don't think any of us thought for a second that the New England Patriots would go into Buffalo and beat them in their house. This type of season is really bizarre here, Chris.
Absolutely. I would say even going down to college with all the upsets the college ranks have been having. It has been a weird year for football.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
My sister went to Penn State too.
Yep. It's been a rough like week or two here in the world of Philly sports in certain ways and being a Penn State fan. But look, let's get into this preview here. I could chat with you forever about what's going on in the world of sports, but I first wanted to dive into, Chris, you know, the type of year that it has been for the New York Giants. They're 1-4 heading into week 6 here. I'm wondering if you had one word to summarize this New York Giants season, what would that one word be and why?
Okay, I would have to go with frustrating. And the reason is because the Giants are better than their record says they are. They have more talent than you would expect from a team that has only cracked 20 points once this year. Yeah. Right up until Malik Neighbors got hurt, I would say they were pretty much set at the 4 cornerstone positions. Jaxson Dart has been impressive since his very first preseason game. The offensive line has been bad for the first time in a long time. So, they should be better than a 1-4 record. Yeah, they were right in it right up until about the second half of the fourth quarter against Washington. They should have beaten Dallas. They were right in it with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they beat the Chargers. And then they were dominant in the first quarter and a half of the game against the Saints, and then were again right into it until they had 5 consecutive drives and in turnovers against the Saints. So it was just, for so many reasons, they should be better than they have been, but they just cannot get out of their own way. And that is the most frustrating thing. It would be fine. Well, not fine, but understandable if they were just not talented or if they were just bad, but they aren't. They've got so many flashes of good play and they've got talented players and they just keep finding ways to lose.
Yeah. It's frustrating, obviously, for Giants fans, but I think this year throughout the NFL, as we are now seeing, there's no undefeated team anymore in the NFL. The Bills, like I mentioned last night, were the last, and they ended up faltering against the New England Patriots. I think inconsistency is happening a lot throughout the league. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, too. This is a team that will be dominant one half, putting up 250-some yards, and then 30 yards the next half. It is so bizarre, and it's happening consistently with the Philadelphia Eagles. Just what happened this past week. Eagles are up by 2 scores on the Denver Broncos, and they let the Broncos come back because of offensive, in my opinion, play calling more so than inconsistency. But the offense just wasn't able to get it done, and the play calling was absolutely horrendous. I think we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies throughout the NFL, and I think for both the Giants and the Eagles, as we're moving along with this preview show, I mean, that could potentially be one of the catalysts for, you know, who is going to win and who is going to lose this upcoming matchup here. So I really want to get into the strengths and weaknesses of the New York Giants. because we always like to talk about that on our opposition territory shows here. Whoever team the Eagles are facing that week, let's talk about the biggest strength of the team, the biggest weakness of the team here. So let's get into the biggest strength of the New York Giants after 5 weeks of play. Chris, what is that? And what can you describe to us with regard to that strength?
Yeah, it's the defensive line. Just straight up, that is the strength of the team right now. I would say specifically those 3 edge rushers, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. Obviously, you got Dexter Lawrence inside, and then a rotation, next to and around and behind him. But every offensive line has to bring their A game against the Giants, and the offensive coordinator needs to have a plan to get the ball out of his quarterback's hand quickly.
Yeah.
The Giants' run defense hasn't been good. Right up until the game against the Saints, it was the worst in the league, but that has less to do with their defensive front and more about just the execution behind them, which is something we'll get into later. But that defensive front, they can apply pressure from everywhere. They can do so quickly. They can do it with power. They can do it with speed. They can do it with technique. And they're also, for the most part, athletic enough where they can drop into coverage as well. So you can never be quite sure who's coming and who isn't. If we're talking about secondary strengths, weirdly, despite having a 3 turnover game, I would actually say Jaxson Dart right now. As I mentioned before, he has been really impressive. He is still a long ways away. There's a lot of he has his rookie moments.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute.
There are technical things you see on film that I honestly would have liked to have seen him iron out before he gets moved into the starting job, but that was a coach's decision. So, okay, got to live with that then.
Yeah.
But his poise, the way that he never really seems overwhelmed. Even if he's under pressure, he has a very good command of the pocket. He can make defenders miss and either extend the play, pick up yards with his legs, and he's accurate and he has a strong arm and he has that baseball background, so he can throw off platforms. So he has a lot of tools that the Giants haven't really had available to them before. It's not kind of like the Eli Manning heyday where if you go into the fourth quarter basically within 7 points of the other team, you kind of calm down and you feel, okay, we are not out of this. In fact, we got a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
But Dart does it feels like there's something there.
Yeah.
It feels like he can be a reason why you win and not just a player you win with. It's
a different vibe than Daniel Jones for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, just in this very, very short period of time that we've seen Jaxson Dart on the field, I mean, it's definitely different. What about the biggest weakness coming into this week here? What do you think that biggest weakness of the Giants is?
Right now, wide receiver. Personnel weakness is wide receiver. Malik Neighbors tore his ACL. He's done. Darius Slayton hurt his hamstring against the Saints. We haven't gotten word, but I sincerely doubt he will be ready to go against the Eagles in 3 days. Behind him, you've got Wan'Dale Robinson, who is a nice player. I like him. He is more than just a gadget player, but he is still a 5'8" former running back. And then you have Jalen Hyatt, who has completely forgotten how to play football ever since winning the Biletnikoff Award at Tennessee. Everything I thought was his strength on tape as a prospect has turned out to not be a strength. And then basically the only things left is Gunnar Olszewski, their kick and punt returner, who can do things with the ball in his hands, but again, not a guy you want starting. And Bo Collins, an undrafted rookie who has, since the start of preseason, been the target of 3 interceptions because he screwed up the route. So, yeah, I would say right now wide receiver is it is just a desolate wasteland for the Giants.
Okay. That's a great way to put it there, Chris. But look, you touched on Jaxson Dart. And I want to get into the quarterback position a bit here from what you've seen over these past couple of games. And to be honest with you, like you said, it hasn't been terrible by any stretch of the imagination. Jaxson Dart in the pocket has not necessarily been terrible, but I do feel bad. I feel bad for rookie quarterbacks that have to put so much on their shoulders that first season as they're trying to learn the offense, but they're just trying to learn how the game and the speed of the NFL is playing out right in front of them. And so far is doing not a bad job. It's got to be incredibly difficult. Look, he definitely looked like a rookie in what I saw this past week against the Saints, and a game, again, the Giants really should have won. So I'm wondering, you were talking about Jaxson Dart as being a positive on this team just a few minutes ago. How would you assess, if you can get in maybe a little more detail, how would you assess where he's at over these past couple weeks? And again, maybe getting into some of those strengths and weaknesses.
I think he is further ahead than some people expected. It was coming out of Ole Miss. He was pretty widely expected to be a player who was going to need a year, like a solid redshirt year.
Yep.
I believe he is processing the game a lot more quickly and efficiently isn't quite the right word, but close enough than people expected. I think coming out of that Lane Kiffin offense, has a lot higher football IQ than people gave him credit for at Ole Miss. Yeah, you can see him go through his progressions. You can see him make decisions pretty quickly. He's been decisive, and he's made generally good decisions. Like, even other than when not to slide and the way he occasionally carries the ball, he has been decisive and just smart in how he makes his decisions. Like, he typically doesn't put the football in harm's way, which is a weird thing to say after he had 3 turnovers. But again, I wouldn't really put too much of that on him, other than just ball security carrying it. I wouldn't even carry a loaf of bread like that. But
yeah,
again, that's.
Do you think that's his biggest weakness here at this point? Even though it's somewhat of a strength. Yeah. Just the way kind of that. Yeah, kind of the way that he is holding that ball out there like a loaf of bread at times, like you're saying.
That definitely is a weakness of his. Yes. I would say kind of almost the devil may care way that he plays. Like, he and Cam Skadbu have the exact same running style. They would rather run through you than around you.
Right.
And that's the thing that's going to have to change. He has recognized that it's going to have to change, and he has seemed to improve quickly. I would say, from like a mental standpoint, his biggest weakness has been that it isn't so much that the game is too fast for him, but sometimes he gets going faster than the game. Which that's one of the things I noticed. JT O'Sullivan runs the quarterback school on YouTube. He's pointed out Dart has a tendency to, like, rather than take a proper 3-5 step drop, he kind of shuffles backwards and doesn't really sync his feet up with his receivers' routes. So he can get through his progressions before really the routes develop. So in some ways, he needs to slow down to the speed of the game sometimes.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's a rookie thing. He's having to develop on the job, which, like you said, that's a rough thing.
It absolutely is a rough thing, but so far, he hasn't been a complete and utter bust for the New York Giants, not at all. And it's going to be interesting going up against this Eagles defense that certainly is not in any way, shape, or form a dominant defense this year, as we have seen. Not a terrible defense, but we're going to get into some trenches talk in just a bit. But before we take a break here, Chris, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social? We know you're over at bigblueview.com. We love our SB Nation sites, but let folks know where they can follow you on the interwebs out there.
Well, I technically still have a Twitter account at Raptor MKII, but I have just not used it since it went down 3 times during the draft.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much
You're over on
spending
Blue
all of my
Sky.
time anymore over on
Yeah.
Blue Sky, which is raptormkii.bluesky.social.
Yeah, very good. All right. And folks, if you would like to follow us on YouTube, we'd appreciate that. Like and subscribe to us if you're watching us there. Share our content and our podcast with your friends and family members who may be Philly sports fans or sports fans in general. We don't just talk Philly sports, we talk about the sports world in general. We're also on various social media sites as well. Instagram, Twitter/X. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. You like our Facebook page, our threads, and Eric and I are on Blue Sky. You can follow me over there at Jeff Warren. Just search me up and you'll see us. So that being said, we're going to take a break, folks. When we come back, we've got more of our Eagles and Giants pregame preview show. Stick with us. All right, we are back, and we are with our good friend Chris Pflum from bigblueview.com. Great site, great content. If you're looking at some NFC East rival content, I do want to get into now the trenches. It's going to be a battle of the trenches this Thursday night here. I wonder how this is really going to end up playing out, because the Eagles are having some major issues within the interior of their offensive line. As many know, Landon Dickerson, he's been nursing a back injury since training camp. Now he's got an ankle injury as well. His backup, Brett Toth, he's an average blocker out there, an average O-lineman, but is not killing it for sure. Their center, Cam Jurgens, is also recovering from his back surgery in the offseason. Just a lot of inconsistencies also with Tyler Steen, really trying to settle into his starting role for the first time as the Eagles' right guard. I'm wondering, how do you see the Giants' defensive front really stacking up against the Eagles' offensive line this week, Chris? Because the offensive line has, quote, technically been kind of a weakness of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's been inconsistent, to say the least. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Other than, whether or not the Giants can get their passing game going, this will be where the game is won or lost.
Yeah.
We're still kind of waiting for Dexter Lawrence to play like all caps Dexter Lawrence again. Yeah, he has been a factor. He's been impactful, but he hasn't taken a game over just yet. Other than almost having a thick six against the Chargers, last week.
Right.
But he hasn't been just dominating double teams quite the way he has been. Yeah. I'm personally going to be interested to see how the Giants make use of Abdul Carter, with the mobility threat that Jalen Hurts has. Will they use him as a spy, have him show pressure, back off, use him as an edge rusher? That I think is going to be very interesting to see. On the outside, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, they've both added power aspects to their games. And the Eagles have, I believe they still have the biggest offensive line in the NFL.
I think so.
So it will be interesting to see if the Giants try to win with speed, or if they try to constrict that offensive line the way the Broncos were kind of able to. Just try to hold their blocks, keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, and then just try to crush it.
Yeah.
I'm not. That isn't exactly how the Giants are built. They really are kind of built to win with speed and bend on the outside, and then kind of force guys up to Dexter Lawrence, Darius Alexander, Nacho. I can already tell I'm going to trip over his full name. So
don't worry about it. Yes.
Joaquin Nunez, Roches, the various other guys they have in the middle there. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup between the speed the Giants have on especially the outside of their defense, off the edges, and just the power the Eagles have. Yeah. And I'm kind of not sure which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, the Eagles' offensive line has been not a strength.
Right.
I'm
Even Jordan Mailata. Yeah,
Yeah.
even Jordan Mailata this past week was having some issues. I mean, he was getting driven right into the backfield, getting driven right into Jalen Hurts at times. It was kind of bizarre to see, and it's bizarre to see what's been happening with this Eagles offensive line for sure. But I also want to talk about, what we might see from the Giants defense in terms of their secondary here, because one of the themes coming into this past week's game against the Broncos with the Eagles was that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, like let's get these weapons and these receivers going. Let's get them going here. And they actually were able to do it. We didn't care for the play calling too much when it came down to it, but A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they were able to get going this past week, and they were successful in the passing game. The Eagles were in many ways. Again, the offensive coaching been under a lot of scrutiny in Philadelphia, and rightfully so. But now that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert have really kind of been ramped up here after week 5 here, I'm wondering, what level of concern do you have for the Giants secondary and these matchups heading into this Thursday night game?
I would say there's definitely concern because the Giants secondary has not measured up to expectations. They went out, they got Paulson Adebo, they got Javon Holland. That was supposed to really shore up the holes in their secondary, replacing just a rotating cast at one cornerback spot, and then Jason Pinnock, who was fine, at the safety position. But Adebo and Holland have played reasonably well. The problem is that Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips have been very inconsistent. There's that word again.
Yeah.
They are playing much more like rookies than they were when they were rookies.
Yeah.
They had, Drew Phillips has either been fantastic or a flag magnet. Yeah. Tyler Nubin has been his general lack of athleticism. He's a very smart player, but he is a limited athlete. That has shown up because his angles, his just understanding of where he's supposed to be in coverage.
Yeah.
That has either taken a step backward or they've added some wrinkles and changes to the defense that he is just not settling into them correctly. So that I would definitely say has been a concern. And then the other cornerback position has just been weird for the Giants. They have used a platoon at cornerback 2 with Cordell Flott being the starter and then former first rounder Deonte Banks coming in as an outside corner in nickel packages.
Yeah.
Which is weird. And Banks has been, I don't want to say he's been terrible because there have been enough decent plays on tape that don't get focus that I don't want to drag him completely. It's just that when he fails spectacularly.
Right.
So
I feel that with one former New York Giant, and that is Adoree Jackson. If you'd like Adoree Jackson back, we can actually provide that, I think, to you at this point.
Okay, but only if he comes packaged with A.J. Brown.
There we go. Absolutely. There we go. Oh, man, it has been great talking to you, Chris. But before I let you go, buddy, like we do here on our Opposition Territory podcast every week with our pregame preview shows, we talk about one thing that each team is going to need to hit on for a win this week against the other. So let's first start off with what's the one thing the Giants are going to need to hit on for a win this week against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Okay. Putting Jalen Hurts on the ground aside and slowing down the running game aside, I have to go with the passing game. They have to be able to move the ball through the air, which I think is going to come from the tight ends, which is kind of weird to say for the Giants because they tend to forget those exist.
Yeah.
But right now, their two best receivers outside of Wan'Dale Robinson are probably Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah.
Theo Johnson is a big, 6'6", almost 260, freakishly athletic tight end, former Penn State guy, but he was raw coming out. He can stretch the field. He can make tough catches. He just has to do it consistently. Daniel Bellinger is a lot more athletic than people expect for a 6'5", 250-pound Y tight end. But the Giants have basically, since he got poked in the eye as a rookie, forgotten he existed. They went out and got Darren Waller and just fed him the targets. Then they got Theo Johnson and fed him the targets. And Bellinger catches everything thrown to him. He just doesn't get it that often. But now they're going to have to depend on those guys with, again, the desolate wasteland at receiving core.
Yep.
So I think other than the defensive side of things, that's what they're going to have to do, because otherwise it's going to be too easy to focus on the run game with Cam Scadaboo, Jaxson Dart. The Giants are expecting Tyrone Tracy back, but again, they're not going to have success playing 1950s ball if they can't throw the football.
Right. Exactly. Well, what to close us out here, what are the Eagles going to need to hit on for a win this week against the Giants? What are your thoughts there?
Honestly, just play a clean game.
Yeah.
If they can avoid killing themselves with penalties, with turnovers, with just giving away possessions or letting the Giants hang around if they do score, I think that's really what they need to do, because I mentioned it before, inconsistencies just all over the Giants that has really been their Achilles heel this year, even longer, really. And that's leading to some very serious questions, at least around the fan base and the Giants media ecosystem with respect to Brian Daboll's job. So right now, if you want to beat the Giants, just play clean.
Yeah. This is
odds are they'll beat themselves.
Yeah, there you go. It comes down to inconsistency and consistency. I mean, it sounds so simple, but not so simple in the NFL these days, folks. It's going to do it for us here on our Opposition Territory podcast and our Eagles Giants pregame preview show. We've got Chris Pflum from Big Blue View, who we are going to say bye to now. But Chris, it's always great talking to you. Thanks so much for taking the time to jump on here. I'd love to talk to you at some point down the road, my friend. Come back and join us. We'll talk more Giants. We'll talk more NFL. I'd love to have you back, my friend.
Absolutely. Just let me know.